What we have in here is actually these are the files I'm going to post to the not the Dropbox, sorry, the Edmodo after we finish today's lesson. That was the practice what we done in group 1 so far. Now I'm just going to start the same fresh tutorials for the group 2 for you guys. So let me start with the very simple, very straightforward page. Now let us see what is inside this page actually. Let me just open it in here with the Coda 2. Okay, here it is. So what we have in here is, it has no CSS rule given in here. It is just a plain HTML text. Okay? But if you look at this typing of this HTML text, you can just definitely understand that that is about the HTML5 related tags are in here. For example, in very first, the doc type has been declared as HTML. So that means that we are talking about the HTML5 in here. The header, now, article, aside, section, footer, and such were not present when it was XHTML, HTML4, and let's say the previous versions of the HTML. If you even don't use them, your website will be working fine. That's not a problem. Or once you write something, the header, it doesn't be header magically. You should define some features of it. The reason why these semantic tags have been developed by the W3C, World Wide Web Consortium, they observe that when the developers are developing some websites, that they usually open some div tags, some tables, some spans. They are calling them, let's say, header, footer, now, and such. And sometimes they are not calling the header as header. They are saying that header top or footer bottom, or sometimes instead of using footer, they were writing bottom or top. So that wasn't unified. The W3C decided that, okay, let us decide the sort of rules and regulations which can be followed by all sorts of developers. So the artificial robotics, what like the Google is using for search engines, can just go and search some sort of specific, let's say, tabs, and related to those tabs can store the websites. Let's say that you have a nav tab in here. Actually, nav was open but didn't close. I just saw it. So nav in here stands for the navigation area. And in this navigation area, if I write in here, for example, HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, PHP, MySQL, that means that the page what I'm building is about these stuffs. So when the Googles, let's say those artificial robotics are just traveling inside the web, if they just observe that my navigation section is about these stuffs, so my page what I'm building will be categorized accordingly. So that is actually okay even if you don't use the nav. That's okay even if you don't use the header or footer, but that is the rules of the game. If you want your, let's say, page to be shine up in some better ways in terms of search engines and such, that's better to use these tools, okay? Even, for example, now there's a website, I forget its full link, but that was checking, for example, once you release a page, you are writing your website's link, or actually a whole URL, inside that page. That page is checking that either you use the semantic tags or the CSS rules according to the recent rules of it, and they're ranking your page. And even if it's giving you some sort of commands that here you use strong word, which belongs to the XHTML, it's preferred to use this one and such. Okay, so what I'm planning to show you in here is just the CSS related structures. The first page in here, what we have, okay, I'll leave these all aside. Now what we are looking in here is just this H1 tag. As we have remembered in the last lecture, H1 stands for the biggest header. Am I right? So once we play this one in here, okay, let me open it in the text editor. Sorry, in the Google Chrome. We see the text like this. It's saying that this text printed by default CSS rules. So even if you haven't defined any rule, the browsers are having their own default CSS rules. CSS fonts, okay, the size or margins, paddings and such. They're all having a default value in here, in first. We have four types of CSS rules, or four places where we can write our CSS. One is the default, means we don't write anything. We are just obeying the rules of the browser. Second is the external. Third is internal. Fourth is inline. And the default one is the weakest one. If there is any other rules printed, the default rule will no more dominant. So let's see what happens now. I am just taking the same page. And I'm just writing in here this index1.html. I'm just duplicating it into index2.html. Okay? And let me just open that page in here. Okay. Here's the index2.html. That is exactly the same one. Okay, exactly the same one. Just the difference is I am going to link an external style sheet in here. So importing an external style sheet inside a page can be possible to be imported in any place. I mean, it's not supposed to be always in the head. You can just import it inside the body, inside the footer, anywhere you like you can. But the most applicable one is to import it inside the head, because the CSS rules are defining how the content will be visualized in the browser. So if you know the rules, how to show them well, so it's better to display them in proper way. So here, that's why we write our the external style sheets link in the top. Okay. Now, after we just import this external style sheet into our page, let's see how our page will looks like. Okay, I'm just going to enlarge the scale. Okay, and I'm just going to say that let this one stay as 1. I'm just going to duplicate and I'm just going to write in here. Sorry. Okay, it is index2. We have nothing changed because we haven't generated that external rule set yet. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to build a main.css file inside the same folder. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to click the file, new CSS, and I'm just going to define the rules related to header 1. While you are developing the rules related to native tags of HTML, you're not supposed to write hash, or you're not supposed to write point or greater sign or such in your CSS rules. You will just say that, hey, you h1 have this feature. That's all. So in here, I'm just going to save it as I said in the same place as my index.htmls are present. I'm just saving it as main.css. So let me just do some styling in here. But before making it, I'm just going to make this default into external. Okay, now the very first thing what I'm going to make is I'm just going to change the font family. It is already, I guess, related to that serif fonts. I'm just going to write in here Arial, and I'm just going to change some size issues. Okay, I'm just going to write in here font size as, let's say, 30 pixels, and I want to underline my text. Okay, so it is text decoration underline, and it looks in black in color, so let me change its color into, okay, green. Okay, so color is green. So once I make these changes, let's see what happens. This was my default CSS rules, actually acting upon the H1. If I just go for here and if I just try it now, it has been changed, significantly changed. Anything what I decided to affect is affecting now in here. You got it? So once you have an external rule, the external rule dominated on the default rule. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to keep that external rule set present there, but I'm just going to write internal rules, and we will see that which one will be dominating. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate this one. Not this way. Okay. Duplicate as index 3. Okay, index 3 is the same as the index 2. What I'm going to do is, after I have actually generate the link with the external style sheet, I'm just going to write some internal style sheet in here. The internal style sheet is written inside the style tag. The style tag, again, like calling the link, it can be done in any place, in anywhere, no problem, but illogically, most of the style sheets are being called or generated inside the head. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change some of the features of H1. Okay, what I'm going to change in here, I'm just going to put a let's say background color. That background color is going to be, let's say, yellow, and I'm planning to put some paddings in the margins. Okay, I will just put the paddings and margins for the further practices. I'm just going to change. Okay, I'm just going to make a text decoration overline. It was underlined, now it became overline. And that's okay. And one more, font style is italic. That's okay. So let's see what will be happening in here. I'm just going to duplicate this page, and now I'm just going to change it into 3. You see that? Now, that is exactly different than the first one. You got this? So this was the external CSS. This is the internal CSS. And definitely it had been changed. So this internal CSS, let me just change the title to, it's no more external, it is internal. Huh? So think about it, which one is strongest now? Huh? Okay, up until now, internal. Now I'm just going to show the latest one, that is the inline CSS. So I'm just going to duplicate again like before, that index 3. I'm just going to duplicate it into index 4. So index 4 is going to be something like this. Here we have external CSS rule, which dominated on the default one. Here we have internal CSS rule, which dominated on the external one. Now what I'm going to do is inline CSS. Inline CSS is supposed to be written inside the tag what you are going to change its features. So I'm just going to write in here style. Oops, sorry. Style, and I can just write the styles in here, like other tags. Like other CSS rules, I have again the same sort of setup in here. I'm just going to write in here. I'm just going to change the background color. Okay, background color is going to be now red. Okay. The color of my text is going to be, let's say, blue. Okay, blue. Okay, yellow. If you write the color, that means the font color. Okay. And last one, I'm just going to remove those lines. Font, style, sorry, text decoration, none. Okay, so let's see what will happen now. I'm just going to duplicate it. Now I'm just going to run it in here. So as I say that, now it has been changed again. Text decorations are something like underline, overline, or something like those stuffs, okay? Font style is about the italic and such, okay? So, as you see in here, what we have done so far is just the progress of 4 pages. And as you see that eventually the dominated rule is related to inline CSS. One before it was internal, one before it that was external, one before it that was the default CSS rule. So the most strongest rule is actually, I'm just going to write in here, in line. The most strongest one is the inline CSS rule. You got this? So that was the first thing what we should be covered. The second thing what now I'm going to talk about is, first of all, we will talk about the IDs and the classes, and we will talk about the margins, borders, and the paddings. Okay? So I will just merge them together in one practice. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to duplicate the this index4.html into index 5. And I'm just going to change this main.css. I'm just going to duplicate it because I'm just going to write different rules for here now. So these are no more related to our study now. Okay, desktop. Okay, CSS tries. Index 5 is in here. I'm just going to open the main one.css. And here I'm just going to remove this part, including with the header, sorry, h1 tag. I am not going to make any internal CSS. I'm just going to make the CSS rules externally. Whatever I'm going to do will be printed inside the article. Now I'm just going to enlarge the size. I have saved it. Now I'm just going to open the main one.css as well. Now we will just do some sort of codings in here. The index5.html is going to contain 3 pictures. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is this. Let me just find the pictures. Where are they? They are in here, images. I'm just going to copy that folder in here so we can access them better, easier. Paste them. Okay. So, I'm just going to import in here some images. I'm going to use the same way as we did in the last lecture. img for the image, src for the source. That is inside the images folder. I know that that's the picture 1.gpg. Okay, gpg. And I'm just going to copy. Oops, sorry. I'm just copy this 3 times, and this is for picture 1, this is for picture 2, this is for picture 3. So let's see what we have in the browser. I'm just going to duplicate this page as 5. So here we have some pictures. The pictures are so huge. Now I want to generate a class which affects all the pictures simultaneously. Okay? I can write my rules inside the images, but whatever I wrote my rules inside the images, so that affects all the images in the page. So if I'm just going to talk about those images which are inside this class, will be affected that way. So I'm just going to use the class. Class and ID is almost having the same stuff in CSS and HTML manner. I'm not talking about the JavaScript. So class is actually the stuff which can be written more than once in a page. For example, you can target more than one object in the same class in one page. ID, in another hand, must be used only for once. If you use twice or three times or more than one, the browser will not give you a warning message. It will be working fine, but that will generate problems for the further reasons. For example, if you are planning to use a link inside the same page, for scrolling the page up or down, if you have several IDs, the top ID will be applied, the others will be ignored. Or if you are writing a JavaScript code related to one ID, but you have several same IDs there, so JavaScript will not work that efficiently. The point in here is that if you are going to use the class, if you are going to use a rule set which is affecting more than a set of images, it is better to use that time the classes. If you are going to use a rule set which is affecting only one target, so in that time it's better to use the ID. Now what I'm going to do is this. Inside the images, I'm just going to write in here that class, okay, my pic, or let me just write in here as pic, okay, SML for small pictures. So I'm just going to copy this and paste in here. Oops, paste in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write some sort of rules in here for making the pictures to look in smaller. So I am now in the main1.css. So I'm just going to use some sort of rules for that SML picture. So I write here starting with the point. Now I'm writing SML picture. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to change their features. Let's say like the width is 15%. Where is the percent? 15%. And the height is 15% too. I save it. Let's see whether it will change or not. Okay, I'm now coming to the page and I refresh the page. It's not changing. The reason is you have to be careful about your lowercase and uppercase issues. Now, if you look at in here, I wrote in here SML, PIC, all in lowercase. But if you look at in here, that S and the P letters are in capital. So either you need to change here in all lowercase or you need to make this S and the P letters capital. I'm just going to make this S and the P capital. So now they have the match. And now if I refresh the page now they are get smaller in size. Clear?
Before is a horizontal, vertical, now is a horizontal. Why?
It wasn't vertical. It was actually the same picture, but it was so huge. Okay? That it wasn't fitting in the browser. That's why it looks like in that way. Now I'm just going to make it undo. Okay, here we are. So here, as you see, that we have now smaller the size of our pictures by the 10 or 15%. It's 15% in here.
We just put the free page. How the HTML nodes have to put in each other inside each other?
You mean what?
We just put it free image.
Yeah.
And the HTML did any picture next to each other.
Yes.
How do you know?
Actually, if you haven't developed any such rules, let's say display rules are there. Each of those picture behaves like a capital A letter. Okay? If I, for example, write something next to my pictures, okay, let me just put some spacings in here. Those letters or those typings will come next to my pictures. I mean, those pictures behaves like a capital A, capital B character. Let's see that in here. See? They are all inline. But we have different sort of setups for it. If you don't like this way, well, yeah, you can just manage it somehow. But as I said, today's lesson is not for the details or the deep explanations of it. If you just wish it so, better to go to W3 schools or the sources what I had shared with you before. I mean, the last year in the web design course, or you can just Google it. I usually, if I have a problem about the CSS, I go and check the W3 schools and the Stack Overflow. They do share really good sources in there. Okay, so let us just continue about editing our pictures. Yep. Sorry? After this ident class is finished. Okay. Now, here we have the stuffs just put in a side. What I'm going to show you is margin and padding and border. So we have three stuffs in here. Margin and padding are empty spaces. Okay, but those empty spaces are affecting different parts of your design. I'm just going to show you in first a theoretical way, then I'm just going to show you a way how you can cheat about it. Okay? So, margins, for example, if we are talking about a picture, now this is a picture. Okay, and the trees, that's good. Okay. Now, this picture has a border. That border is not visible now. If we don't change the border features, it's not visible now. There is a spacing between the image and the border. That spacing is called padding. So the spacing between the border and the image is called the padding. There is another spacing. That spacing is after border and the outside. That is called the margin. So, if you are having any sort of stuff that's not supposed to be always the picture, even the boxes, even the, let's say, paragraph text have these features. So, they all have the padding, they all have the border, they all have the margin. And these can be used in very, let's say, creative manners, in really good ways. Now, what I'm going to show you in here is I'm just going to push these features in each other by using their features of padding and margin. Okay, and let's see what happens there. Here we already have our CSS rule about the small picture. I'm just going to write in here the margin in the first. You can write the margin and the padding either by one value, okay? Or you can write your margin or paddings with two values. Or you can write your margin and paddings by four values.
What about three?
I'm just going to talk about it. The reason is this. If you write only one value, that value is applied in all four directions. Top and bottom, right and left, they all will be applied by it. If you write only a single one entry. Same size, yes. If you write two values. The first one affects the top and bottom. The second one affects the right and left. Okay? If you write the four values, the first one will affect the top, then the next one goes to the right, then to the bottom, then to the left, in the clockwise. Clear? We cannot make it three values because if you make it three, you don't know which one is missing. Either the top is missing, or you write the top but you miss the right, or you write the top and right, you miss the bottom. You cannot estimate it. That's why it's not allowed to write the three setups. If you are not willing to change in any other places, at least make that 0. Clear? Now, I'm just going to show you now the margins in here. I don't want to see the margin in every direction. I just want to see the margin at the right side of my picture. I have two ways to make it. The first way is, I can say that the top is 0 pixel, okay, right is 15 pixel, bottom is 0 pixel, and the left is 0 pixel. I can make it like this. But as you see that's having many things to write in here. The way what I prefer is this. I just delete them. I'm just writing in here margin right. So, sorry, here it is. So now it affects a margin to the right only. Clear? So let me see what it makes. Okay, 25 pixels. Okay, let's see that. Now they have pushed in each other. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to put the padding. But how we will understand the padding is really working or not, because the padding and the margin in here are both blank spaces. So I'm just going to put the border, and after I put the border, we can understand that how it works. I'm just going to make a border like the margin. Okay, border not here, border right. Okay. This border right, what I'm going to put in here is going to use the 3 pixels the width. I want it to be dashed, or let's say dotted, okay, dotted, and it's going to be gray in color. Notice that if you are writing more than one attribute related to one of the feature, we are not writing the commas in between. We just simply put a space. We just simply put a space. Let me just save and try. Okay, what we have done so far is this. Can you see those dotted lines? And those are just sticks with the picture because I haven't put the padding yet. That's why the border line and the picture are sticking in each other. If I want to separate them, so in that case now I'm going to use the padding. Okay, now what I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to write in here padding right. Let's say that it is 10 pixels. Okay, that's good. So if I just try it, here it is. Now those border lines have been separated.
I think just image or those or both of them.
Sorry?
I think both of them or just dots.
Actually, padding was the space in between the image and the border.
The second padding is the second margin.
Which one you mean?
In second padding right.
There is only one padding. Okay. The first one was the margin. Okay, the second one is the padding. Okay, but I don't like actually these lines looks in the same size of my picture. I want those lines to be a bit more longer. So what I do is this. I'm just going to add some padding top and the bottom. So the lines will be longer than the picture themselves. Okay, I'm just going to write in here now padding. Okay, it will have 10 pixel spaces in every direction. So let's see what it be. See now, the lines are more than the size of my pictures now. 10 pixels greater in the top, 10 pixels greater in the bottom. These were all being done by a small picture class. Now, I want to change the picture which is in the middle. So that time I'm now going to change here. I can just say in here, this one, now the mid picture is going to have the ID equals to, let's say, mid picture. So I'm just going to save it. And I'm now going to check what happened in here. Actually, because I take that picture out of the class, now it turned into its default look.
When it's still a question every time, what is the difference between ID and class?
Actually, ID and class in terms of CSS are the rules which have been written for a particular condition. Difference between ID and class is this. If you have, for example, class small picture in here, you can use class small picture any number in your one page. That's okay. But if you have ID, let's say what we are going to do in here, ID mid picture. The ID mid picture must be used only for once in entire page. If you use more than one, that will affect the others too, but that's not the logical way. ID must be used once, that ID must be used once in all the page. Okay, now I'm just going to write the medium picture stuffs now. What I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to write hash in here. Hash stands for the IDs. Now I'm just going to write in here mid picture. And let's make some stylings in here. I'm just going to write in here border radius. I'm just going to write in here 50%. Okay? And then I'm just going to write in here border bottom, which is going to be 4 pixels solid and green. Solid and green. The last one, what I'm planning to do is I'm just going to write the padding bottom, which is 10 pixels. Okay, and I should resize the width and the heights.
The circle you need to go for outside the university for 30 minutes if
Let me finish this first, okay? Now, here it is given in the sizes. Let me just see what it made. And one more thing, okay, I'm just going to make a box shadow. The box shadow is going to be, okay, in this color. I'm just reminding. Okay, I'm just going to write in here 5 pixels, 5 pixels, and 10 pixels. Okay, let's see what we have done so far. So this is the picture what we have just built. Actually, the padding is disturbing the look. That's why I'm just going to remove the padding. That will be looks better now. See it? So, what we have done in here, okay, let me just put the margin to the right so that will separate them as well. Margin right, let's say 20, okay, 30 pixels. So here it is. What we have done so far, we firstly discussed about the difference between internal, default, external, and inline CSS tools. Now we have discussed the differences between the paddings, margins, class, and the ID. Okay? So that's all for now. Let us have a break. after the break, we will just continue coding about the CSS related stuffs. So this was the final picture what we had just developed. Now I'm just going to duplicate the index_5 into index_6. Okay, here it is index 6. And I'm just going to duplicate the main 1.css into main 2.css because I'm going to write different rules now. So here it's going to be main 2.css. So let us just start about it. File, open, main 2.css. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is this. If you follow here, I'm just going to build an unordered list and ordered list. Then I will put one unordered list inside an ordered list. That looks something interesting in here, but that will be okay when I just finish it. So first of all, I'm just going to build one unordered list. This is my unordered list. And the unordered list is going to have the list item as, okay, I'm just going to write in here, this is unordered list. So I'm just going to write in here the list item as apple, li, okay, let's say banana, and let's say li orange. Okay, so that is very straightforward. We just have an unordered list. I'm just going to copy the same stuff in here, but now I'm just going to make in here ordered list. Okay, inside this ordered list, sorry, that's ordered list. One is the apple, the other is going to be the, let's say, Android. Okay, Android, and the next one is going to be, let's say, Symbian. Okay, so let's see what we will see in here. This is ordered list. Let me just see first of all what we have developed without the CSS rules. That's going to be index_6.html. So here it is. This is what we have built so far. Now what I'm going to do very first is I am going to build some rules which are going to affect both unordered list and ordered list. So in that case, I'm just going to, sorry, it's main 2.css. Now, I'm just going to write in here unordered lists and ordered lists will have these features. So if you put the comma there, that means that the unordered lists and the ordered lists will have this feature. The feature is this. I'm just going to say that the font size, let's say 30 pixel. Okay? So if I just see it now in here, they both have it. But if you are planning to change something specifically, you were supposed to write them in a separate way. I mean, the UL is going to have the background color as, let's say, yellow, and OL is going to have the background color as, let's say, pink. Okay, so now we are just targeting them specifically. Clear? So the comma in between them means that they both have that feature. Now, what I am going to say is, if I write in here UL, LI, now I have UL and LI written in here without the comma. That means that all the list items which are inside the unordered list will have this setup. That is actually text decoration. I'm just going to say underline. Yeah. So if we just go for it, only those let's say list items which are under the unordered list will have this setup. If I want to change some features inside the ordered list item, I will just perform the same way. What I'm going to do now is something interesting. I'm just going to save it as it is. I just go for my index.html. I am just going to copy the same stuff in here inside my unordered list. So I have an ordered list inside an unordered list. You got this? Now when I just check, what we see it will be something like this. Okay? So I just embed it inside it. And you see that now they have been underlined. Why they have been underlined? Because those are the list items inside the unordered list. Hence, it is not underlined in here, but it has been underlined in here. Now, I'm just going to make some sort of conditioning. Now, the thing what we done in here is actually affecting all of the list items inside the unordered list. If you look at it here, these list items, yes, inside the OL, but they are in the same time inside the UL. Means they are being affected now in here. What I will do now is I'm just going to change some setups of these ones only, okay, without affecting the rest. I will just say that now I'm now going to make a targeting. I'm just going to say in here those list items which are inside the list item, which are inside the ordered list, which is list item. You see that? Now I'm just using that greater sign. That is for targeting. Now what I'm going to say in here that text decoration none. Okay, let's say font family Arial and color as, let's say, blue. So if I try it now, it didn't work. That's good. That's not good. Okay, let me just check. Is there anything wrong? That should be working. Maybe this is being dominated on it. Let me just delete it for a while to check. No, that should be working. I don't know the reason. Just wait. I'll just check that. Okay. Unordered list, list item, ordered list, list item. Unordered list, list item, ordered list, list item. Okay, it should be working in here. Main2.css, main. Sorry? This one? Ah, yes, we should delete. Yeah, that's the point. Look, this ordered list is not written inside the LI. That's the point. If I had written like that, that's a good observation, that's good. If I had written it inside the LI, now it will be running. You see that? But I haven't written it inside the li. Okay, so now if I just delete this li, now it should be having the same effect. You see that? Now that list item properties are working in here, but not working in here. Okay? So that was about not putting that li in here. You got the idea how it happened? So the point in here is, if you like to write something individually, that is how we were always writing. We were just writing the tag and then we were writing the rule. That's straightforward. If we are willing to affect both of the stuffs or more than one stuff having the same features, so we put the comma in between. Okay? If you want to make a change inside another one, but inside another one means all. So we do write no comma in between that, just a space. If we are targeting something, so we use this greater signs, and that goes and targets that place only. Any questions so far? Now, we are just going to deal about the interactive stuffs now. Okay? And that will be the last thing for today's theory class. After a while, we will just go to the practice lesson now. I'm just going to duplicate this one into index 7. Okay? And I'm just going to duplicate that main 2 into main 3 too. Okay, so here's main 3 and here's index 7. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you how to change the features of the link. How to change the features of the link. I'm just going to generate a simple link that's going to be a href, okay? That's going to be hash in here, means nowhere, still we are staying the same page. And then I'm just going to write in here the link. And I close the anchor tag in here. I have saved it. I'm just calling the main tree. And the main tree has nothing yet. Okay, so let's see what we will see in default, let's say CSS rule. I'm just going to duplicate it in here. Index 7. So this is how a link looks. That is in this color. When I just hover on it, actually I have generated the same stuff before, that's why it's just a bit not this. I just need to clean the history. Okay, show full history. Clear the browsing data. Yeah, clear the browsing data. Control Shift N. I made the other one. Okay. So if the link was not visited, it looks blue in color. Once I hover, it has no change, and when I click on it, now it turned into some maroonish color. Okay, that is the default fonts or default setup of it. In the interactive manners, what we will do is this. I'm just writing in here A. A means that any sort of anchor text, means any sort of links. So in here, I'm just going to write in here that font size. So let me see that changes bigger. If you write 30 like that, if I just save it and try, you will see no difference, okay? Because you haven't given the unit. We have several units. One is EM, Okay, one is EX, one is PIX. Okay, so because we have different sort of units, it is better you to decide which 30 is that. Okay, that's why sometimes you may write something into your CSS rules, but you may not see the effect. The reason might be you were missing that either EM or EX or PX. Okay, so now you got it. Is it lighting? Okay, I'm just going to refresh the page. Not this. Whatever. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to change some rules. The rule is going to be this. Most of the links in today's websites, you will see no underline of it. So the first thing what I will remove is the text decoration. So text decoration will be none. And they have a color which is indicating that that is not a simple font or that's not a simple text, that is a link. So it should have a color which is beside the color black or beside the color the default in the page. I'm going to use in here, let's say okay, red. That's okay. So now the link turns into the red in color and having no underline. Even if I hover on it, has no change. But because the links have some states, you can just go and just command different states in different ways. Now I'm just going to say that if the A is the fact which was visited, okay, and if the A which was, that's just the A, will have this setup. If I hover on A, I mean if I move my mouse over it, so I'm just going to make some changes. I'm just going to change the font family into, let's say, Arial. And I'm just going to make the color into now blue. And I'm just going to make, let's say, background color light gray. Okay? And I'm just going to put the paddings in every direction 5 pixels. So let's see what will happen. If I just refresh the page, now this is the link. If I hover on it, it is just turning into this way. Okay? But that is growing so huge, I'm just going to make it in here that font size, let's say the 25 pixels. Okay, so let's try it now. It's having no growing, changing the fonts and the backgrounds and such. You see that? So this is the way how we can interact with the different states of a link. Got it? Even if it is visited or not, it doesn't change its features because I said that if it was visited, use the same features as non-visited link was. Okay? So these were all about today's lecture. Now, if you have any question, please just ask it now. If you don't, we will just have the practice class by 11 o'clock in the lab. Do you have any questions? Okay, we have studied so far. In the lab class, you will have a surprise. Okay? Yeah, that's surprise. If I say the surprise, that will not be surprise anymore.